For 40 years, I was the quiet wife, the one in the sensible dress at the edge of the room, the one who held the coats and remembered the names and made sure that canopies were arranged just so. I was Carol Phillips' wife, a footnote in his story, an accessory to his success. He was the brilliant architect, the man who built skylines. I was the woman who built his home, who raised his children, who smoothed his path. And I never said a word. Not when he took credit for my ideas at dinner parties, not when he dismissed my thoughts as charming, not when he forgot our anniversary for the 10th year in a row. I was quiet. I had been taught that a good wife is a silent one. That support means invisibility. I swallowed every slight, every dismissal, every casual erasure of my own mind, and I smiled. I built my life around the architecture of his ego. But silence is not emptiness, it is accumulation. Every unspoken word became a brick, every stifled thought became mortar. For 40 years, I was not just building his life, I was constructing a vault. And inside that vault, I stored everything. The receipts for the projects he said were his alone, the sketches I made that became his blueprints, the client notes I wrote that secured his deals, the records of the inheritance from my parents that funded his first office, the letters from his early mistress Zephira, the financial records he thought I couldn't understand. I stored it all, quietly, efficiently, the way I did everything. I became an archivist in my own oblivion. The children grew. They saw a distant father and a pleasant, quiet mother. They loved me, but they did not know me. How could they? I had forgotten who I was, too. I was Philippe's wife. That was the entire script. Then, 6 months ago, the invitation came. A lavish retirement gala, the pinnacle of his career. He would be honored by the city's elite. There would be speeches, tributes. First, I would be there. I would wear the blue dress he liked. I would smile. I would be quiet. That was the plan. Until the day his assistant called. Mrs. Harrington, we're finalizing the program. Mr. Harrington's partner, Mr. Jacobs, will give the main toast. We'd love for you to say a few words, just a short, sweet tribute. 2 minutes, perhaps. From the heart. From the heart. Which heart? The one he had ignored for 4 decades. The one that had beat quietly in the shadow of his glory. I almost said no. The old Carol would have demurred. She would have said, oh no, I'm no public speaker. Let the professionals handle it. But a new voice, a voice made of 40 years of bricks and mortar, spoke instead. It was calm, it was clear. I would be honored. I said, send me the details. I heard the surprise in the assistant's pause. Wonderful. We'll put you down right before Mr. Jacobs, a warm-up, if you will. A warm-up, of course. I hung up the phone and looked at my reflection. The quiet wife. The warm-up act. I saw the lines on my face, each one a year of silence. I saw the eyes that had observed everything and revealed nothing. And I knew the vault was full. It was time to open it. Not with a shout. Not with a scene. With a speech. The keynote speech of my life. I did not write a sweet tribute. I wrote a deposition. I crafted it with the precision he had always admired in his own work. Each sentence was a loaded fact. Each anecdote was a concealed truth. I practiced it in the mirror, not with the meek smile of Carol the wife, but with the steady gaze of Carol, the witness. The gala arrived. The grand ballroom glittered. 300 people, his colleagues, his clients, his admirers. Our children sat at the front table, beaming with pride for their father. Philip was in his element, holding court, the great man at his moment of triumph. He patted my hand absently when I sat down. Just a few words, dear. Don't be nervous. Just say how proud you are. I smiled my quiet smile. Of course, the master of ceremonies took the stage. He listed Philip's achievements, the buildings, the awards, the legacy. The room applauded. Then he said, and now, to offer a more personal perspective, the woman who has been by his side for 40 years, his wife, Carol Harrington. It was a polite, lowering wave of applause. The warm-up act. I stood. I walked to the podium. The lights were bright. I could see Philip smiling, ready for his dose of sentimental validation. I could see our children smiling supportively. I adjusted the microphone. I looked out at the sea of expectant, slightly bored faces. They were waiting for a cute story, a tender memory. They were waiting for the quiet wife to say her piece and fade away. I took a deep breath, the breath of 40 years. "Good evening," I began, my voice surprisingly clear and firm in the sound system. "For 40 years, I have been known as Philippe's wife, the quiet woman in the background. You have celebrated the architect. Allow me to introduce you to the foundation." I paused. A slight ripple of confusion went through the crowd. Philip's smile tightened, just a fraction. "The foundation," I continued, "of 22 Cherry Lane, our first home, which was purchased with the proceeds from the sale of my parents' estate, which I inherited 6 months before our wedding." I let that hang. I saw a few eyebrows raised at the foundation of the Harrington and Jacobs partnership, which was secured not over gold, as the story goes, but over a dinner I arranged, and a proposal I drafted, which is in a file in my study. Dated April 12, 1987, I held up a single sheet of paper, a photocopy, a gentle gasp. Philip was no longer smiling. He was staring. The foundation of the iconic Crestview Tower, whose distinctive atrium was not, as the trade magazines reported, a last-minute inspiration. It was sketched on a napkin at our kitchen table, my kitchen table, by me. I clicked a small remote. An image appeared on the large screen behind me. A faded napkin with a familiar, elegant sketch. In the corner, my initials, CH. The room was utterly silent now. You could hear a champagne bubble burst. "For 40 years, I said, my voice gaining a powerful, calm rhythm, I have been the silent partner, the uncredited co-author, the forgotten investor. I built the home that allowed the genius to work. I raised the children who gave the legacy meaning. I provided the capital, the ideas, and the stability, and in return, I was asked for silence. I was told my role was to support, to disappear, to be the quiet wife." I looked directly at Philip. His face was ashen. "Well, Philip," I said, the microphone carrying my every syllable to the far corners of the dead-silent ballroom, "your work here is done. You are retired, but my work is just beginning. And I am done being quiet." I let the silence stretch. It was a heavy, living thing in that glittering room. All eyes were on me. All eyes were on Philip, whose triumphant retirement had just been dismantled, brick by rhetorical brick, by the quiet wife. I saw our daughter's hand fly to her mouth. Our son stared, stunned. "The business partner, Mr. Jacobs, looked like he might be sick," I continued. My voice did not waver. It was the voice I had found in the vault, forged from 4 decades of observation. "You have heard tonight about vision, about legacy. Let's talk about the true cost of that legacy. The late nights I spent alone, the birthdays and anniversaries that were forgotten for the sake of a client meeting, the creative contributions that were absorbed into the genius without a second thought." I clicked the remote again. The screen now showed a series of financial documents, all bearing my maiden name, Carol Evans. "This is the capital that launched Harrington and Jacobs. My capital, not a loan, not a gift, an investment, for which I have never received a formal dividend, only the privilege of being the silent partner." A furious murmur swept through the crowd. This was no longer a speech. It was an audit. Philip half rose from his chair. "Carol, this is not the place." "Oh, but it is the perfect place," Philippa said, cutting him off cleanly through the microphone. My words boomed over his protest. "This is the place where your narrative ends and mine begins. You see, a retirement party is a celebration of a closed account, and before we close this one, the books must be settled publicly." I turned back to the audience. That shock was curdling into a kind of rapt, horrifying fascination. A good architect understands that a strong building requires an honest foundation. Our foundation was a fiction. It was built on my silence, and silence, I have learned, has a compounding interest. For 40 years, I have been accruing truth, and tonight, truth is calling in the death. I looked at our children. Their faces were pale with confusion and dawning understanding. This was for them, too. They needed to know the architecture of their own lives. "To my children," I said, my voice softening just a degree, "you wondered why your mother was so quiet. It is because I was saving my voice for a day when you were old enough to hear what it really had to say. You are the greatest thing I ever built, and I built you with my own 2 hands. without a call. I saw my daughter begin to cry, not tears of sadness, but of release. And to the colleagues, the clients, the admirers, I said, sweeping my gaze across the ballroom, you celebrated the genius. I invite you now to acknowledge the scaffold, the structure that held him aloft. That structure was a person. It is me, and I am stepping out from underneath. I reached into the small clutch purse I had brought to the podium. I pulled out a single, sealed envelope. My final act as the quiet wife, I announced. These are the divorce papers. I had them drawn up 6 months ago when the planning for this tribute began. I thought it was a fitting symmetry. You get your public finale, I get my legal beginning. I placed the envelope on the podium. The sound was a tiny tap that echoed in the profound hush. Philip, your speech is over. Your career is complete. My speech has just started. My life is just beginning. You are retired from your work. I am resigning from mine. The position of quiet wife is now terminated. I stepped back from the microphone. There was no applause, just a vast, ringing silence, broken by a single pair of hands, clapping slowly, deliberately. It was my daughter. Then my son joined. Then a woman at a back table, a stranger, her eyes gleaming with fierce understanding. Then another. The applause was not thunderous. It was sparse, deliberate, and powerful. It was not for Philip's legacy. It was for its unmasking. I did not look at Philip again. I gathered my clutch. I walked down the 3 steps from the stage. I did not go back to the head table. I walked straight down the center aisle of the ballroom, the same path I had taken in a white dress 40 years prior. This time, I was walking out. Heads turned to watch me go. I felt their gazes, but they felt different. I was no longer invisible. I was seen. For the first time in 40 years, I was truly, completely seen. I am Carol Evans. For 40 years, I was the quiet wife. I used my silence to learn everything, to document everything. And at his retirement party, the celebration of his conclusion, I gave the keynote speech that announced my beginning. Revenge is not always a shout. Sometimes it is the quiet, measured, public reading of a long overdue bill, and payment in the currency of truth and shattered reputation is due upon delivery. The quiet wife has left the building, and she is never going to be quiet again.